As Raithwall's tomb lies in front of us, welcome back to part 14 of Final Fantasy XII, where today, after our introductory boss fight, because we have to fight to even get close to it, we'll be exploring the entirety of the Tomb of Raithwall and seeing what secrets we can uncover. But this boss fight is a peculiar one, because you might remember, last part, we did a side quest that resulted in us getting access to some berries. The Garuda will take severe damage if fed those berries, which is why the game encourages you to do the side quest then and there, because taking it on now will only help so much. There they are, a curious item detested by the avian known as the Garuda. So feed the thing it. Look at how much health it just took. And this thing's already nearly dead because of it. It just got absolutely massacred because of it. But now, once the Garuda is dead, the berries have served their purpose, so going and doing the side quest now wouldn't be of any value. And the reason why I stress this now is because that's exactly what happened in my blind playthrough. It's not that I didn't do the side quest. I did the side quest, got the berries, but only really read the description and paid them any mind after I did the boss fight. But this isn't the only boss fight. This is actually the first of 4 boss fights we're going to be doing this part, because that's the Tomb of Raithwall for you. However, one of them is technically optional, but I will be fighting it anyway because the reward for doing so is worth it. But once the Garuda has been defeated, the mechanism at the top of the stairs will be activated, which is how we're going to be getting into the tomb. There isn't a front door, the mechanism reacts to you instead.
Long ago, the gods granted their favor to King Raithwall, who would oversee the subjugation of a vast territory spanning from Mordalia to Valendia. Here he forged the Galtean alliance. Though he is called the Dynast King, upon establishing the alliance, he demonstrated compassion for his people and disdain for needless war. A philosophy passed on to his successors, one that would bring peace and prosperity for hundreds of years to follow. It was during this time of peace that the city-states of Arcadia and Rosaria, each members of Raithwall's alliance, took root and flourished. Raithwall left 3 relics signifying descent from the Dynast King. Of these, the Midlight Shard was given to what would become House Nabradia, and the Dusk Shard to my ancestors, the founders of Dalmasca. The last of these relics was the Dawn Shard. It remained hidden here, known only to those of royal blood.
As though the Dynast King foresaw the very plight before us now.
None save descendants of the king are suffered within. If we attempt to enter without proof of such lineage...
There's no guarantee we'll make it out alive. Vicious beasts, fiendish traps, something like that?
But you must consider the prize. The Dawn Shard lies within, and Raithwall's treasure.
And there was I, thinking this was going to be hard.
Take that cutscene, if nothing else, as a warning. The Tomb of Raithwall is going to be a step above anything you have faced in the game thus far. There are going to be traps, there are going to be puzzles, there's going to be more powerful enemies, there are going to be enemies acting as illusions, there's going to be several boss fights, and a lot of them are going to be far beyond your level, so you're going to have to improvise and work your strategy around it, deliberately, to test what you are capable of. But the first protocol for me was going to this Tomb Crystal, and taking the opportunity to prepare, getting everyone as kitted out as possible. Because the very next thing we're going to be doing when we enter the Tomb of Raithwall is tackling I think the only boss that's optional of the 4 bosses, because we've done the first one, Garuda. The second one, third one are actually technically the same fight, but but it's 2 enemies that are the same enemy type, but they're considered boss monsters. Which I know kind of devalues them, but the first one is far harder than the second one, because the first one they want you to run away from. But if you can defeat it, the rewards are worth it. So that is what I'm going to be doing. The fact that there is a save crystal just outside of this temple, and the PS4 version auto saves between every load screen, means there's no excuse for you to not try. Even if it takes a while and tests your patience a little bit, keep on trying to take down the first optional boss in the Raithwall tomb when we get to it. Because the reward is worth it, and just passing up on it because you can't beat it right this second, when in reality, although it's stronger than you, it's only so much stronger than you. What was that thing? A contraption you'd find in the most rudimentary ancient ruin, one touch and off you're whisked to you know not where. The finer points of the operation elude me, but they're hardly all the same. What more of a sky pirate know? See, like the fires and around us making us glow as well as we enter the hall of the destroyer. This in front of you, this waystone in front of you, as it warns, you will not be able to access right now until a guard of the tomb has been stirred. What that essentially means is not this first boss, this optional boss that we're approaching, but when the next actual mandatory boss is taken down, it will stir enough to affect the crystal and allow you to access it. But you might have just noticed there is that I swapped to Ash and investigated it again. That's because I was when I was recording this getting confused with a point later on where it's only someone of royal blood can touch it, and I was like, is it this one or is it the next one that's like that? Because there are more tomb-like environments we'll be going to. But this is the optional boss I was talking about. As you go towards it, a demon wall will come alive. An on and off staple of the series, and always an absolute threat because the entire fight is on a time limit. If it pushes you into the back wall, it is an instant kill no matter what. So the game will give you the option: run away or try and fight it. But either way, as Vaughn says, you need to make that decision now. Because if you take too long and don't leave, this cutscene will play out and it will just push you into the wall, crushing you. And that is always a game over. So after about 20 attempts, I got this lucky run. The biggest thing that defined why this run worked out for me is that the quickening, the bonus I got at the end of my quickening, as Barsh got put to sleep, which was very worrying, because it's like the more you waste time, the less likely you're going to win this. But as I was saying, the actual mists themselves, the actual quickening attacks themselves aren't what's as important here. What's important is what finisher you get, because it is weak to several different elements. You need to get the finisher to be one of those elements. And as I've said before, it's pseudo-random. Like, there is an element of control you can have over it, but for the most part it is still random. And that was the main thing that defined why this took so many attempts, because I just didn't get lucky. I kept on either getting fire or I think I got thunder a couple times, and both of them it's highly resistant to, so its health bar barely moves, because all these quickening attacks are rudimentary compared to what the finisher is going to do to it. If there wasn't a finishing attack, the health bar would move only by about, I want to say, 1/10. That's how much over leveled this thing is to us. Because like I said, it's optional. They actually expect you to kind of run away from it and think, oh, you can't do it. But if you can do it, there's a jewel behind the boss that once this dungeon is defeated, you can access, that will lead to a secret department that will lead you to better treasure. And you can see, because I'm desperate to try and get, I think it's either the air one or the earth one, I'm trying to keep the chain going as long as possible, just on some vain hope that it might affect it in a way that will help. But it also gives us a chance to draw Tide of Fate, since I think Balfig got that either last part at the start of this part of my race through getting everything. I think this is the end of the road. Oh, and I did get Nord Swain's glow. Oh, and another one. Was it Nord Swain or Nord Swain? As a motorbike passes us by, hopefully that didn't pick up on the mic too bad. Now it's the end. Only yeah. Only 1.5. Yeah, we weren't getting that. But thankfully, I think I get Cyclone. Oh, Torrent, which is water. And although it's not what the best one I could ask for, if you can get air or earth, it's the best, but water is still very strong to it. And you see how much that did. That was 99% just the finisher. The biggest thing though that will make this still slow down is you see how it just... Ash is in the X zone right now. She's completely out of the fight and out of existence. But we took it down. And even if you don't find use of the reward for defeating this demon wall, there is another reward because it will count as a boss defeated. So if you go back to Mont Blanc will give you something for your troubles for defeating this demon wall. But as you can see, Ash isn't in this finishing pose because she got taken to the X zone, and the X zone is probably the most terrifying condition, like status effect in this game, because if you're sent to the X zone, that's it. Ash will remain in the X zone until either several minutes have passed or we touch a save crystal to get everyone fully restored. Because Ash is just gone. She's been sent to the void. Like, the actual description of it is that she's sent to the void. Like, she's probably met X death, but she's fucking gone. And if there's a boss that will spam vanish or spams trying to just get people to the X zone in general, it doesn't matter what your level are, that fight becomes a threat. Because it only takes it having to connect once for that person to be completely out of the party. Connect twice, you're down to one person and you can't get them back, you've pretty much lost. But we did get a bounty done last part, so I turn it in and get a new bow for Fran. Yeah, the elfin bow. I also got the shell shield, which, although it doesn't have as good a defense stats as what we've got, it makes it so you always have the status condition shell on, which shell is magic based resistance, so you'll be taking less damage from magic attacks. So if there's a boss that's spamming magic, it might be worth sacrificing a bit of your defense to equip it. And you'll be seeing that even though we're going to get shields that far outpower it, the fact that it casts shell automatically and maintains it will make it that I won't sell it, because it's just so helpful. But we've got new hunts, and as I mentioned before, now we've hit Vanguard, the main mass of ranked fighters are going to start becoming available to us, such as these 2 rank 5s and a rank 3. The rank 3 you might be able to deal with right now. The rank 5s, however, I discourage you. I don't think you'd get that far. But what I decide will be my port of call is to accept them all, talk to the people in power, and then off screen give them an attempt to see if I can do them, and if I can do them, then go back for them on screen to show it. But what's worth noting is that one of the hunts, the person looking for it is in here. There's a tavern master over here you're looking for, to look for the serpentine. And he's in the caverns in the Westerstand. You know, the caverns we've mentioned a few times before that goes under majority of the land. You can also access it from an area just south of the Giza Plains. But if you talk to Mont Blanc, firstly he'll congratulate you for hitting the Vanguard rank, if you've been following along. But if you did take down the demon wall, he will reward you for your efforts. Where you get 1200 gil and a nugget of Electrum. The Electrum sells well, so keep a hold of that. I'll say keep a hold of it, sell it. And anytime you sell items, it has a chance to add more things to the bazaar as well, because the bazaar is looking for specific items to sell to you for them to offer more things. But I also talked to Balzac to get this set in. And I can't remember if I go and talk to the third person so all 3 of them are good to go. So I think the third person is just a tad too far away. Oh no, I do, good. Because I know I come back to Raithwall State to start another hunt in only a couple parts time, because I have recorded my 3rd session, because this part was actually the end of my 2nd session. After I finished the tomb, that's when I stopped recording and started working on editing and everything. But I have done a 3rd session now and gone significantly further for reasons I won't spoil it yet. Even if it's only a little ahead of us, I still won't spoil it. But I know I come back to Raithwall State and accept more hunts, and I know there was one where I was like, hang on a minute, didn't I get this one a little while ago? But it must not have been this one, because Sorbet wants us to help out here. To take on the White Mouse, which is a slime-based enemy, so good luck with that. But heading back to the tomb, this jewel is your main reward, but you can't interact with it now. The actual dungeon itself has to be done with first, and then you can access it. So access the ancient door, and go on your way immediately into the next mandatory boss, because it's a pincer bridge. There's 2 demon walls. Yeah, the demon wall behind you, and there's going to be another demon wall right in front of us, as this is going to highlight. But this demon wall is nowhere near as strong because this one is mandatory. You'll notice, like, I'm barely going to do that much.
Be quick. Together we can bring it down.
And this is where Fran, like, it's like, you need to take this one down, because there is no escape, there's no side to jump off of, there is no freedom. You need to just book it to the other end. On the right side of the screen, you can see a meter, essentially, of how far the wall has pushed you. I mean, technically, you can go to the door and alternate between the 2 if you wanted to. Because I think that can actually be a strategy, but I don't know how that would work. Because I've never actually tried it, if I'm honest. I've always just powered through defeating it on the first round. But you might be able to alternate the 2 to give yourself more time to try and take them both out. But either way, because I wasn't sure if this one was weaker or not, because I was like, I knew it was mandatory, but I was like, yeah, but would they make it weaker, or would they be a dick and make it so you have to fight this stronger version? But no, it is a weaker version, but I still decide to use my quickenings on it just to make sure I'm safe, to make sure it definitely goes down. More so just because of how many attempts I had with the previous one, I didn't want to go through it again straight afterwards. Which thankfully doesn't happen. This one was done and dusted on my first attempt. This one didn't push me into the back wall. Which is good, because I don't even think I get as good at quickening. So the fact that it worked in my favour, I managed to take it down anyway, is a lifesaver.
I never miss.
Yeah, that was the end of it. So I wasn't as strong, so I just didn't get as lucky. Oh, I got Torrent again, that's at least a good thing. It'll do a lot of damage. And the music's different for this one as well, because it's trying to highlight the desperation of your situation a lot more. But you'll notice this one, yeah, it readied Telliger to try and send someone to the X zone, but it never actually cast anything. Nothing happened. But with both demon walls done, that is your other mandatory boss dealt with, and you will also be rewarded again for it if you return the Mont Blanc. Because you'll say, oh, you've taken down a second demon wall. Well, here's your other reward. And you'll even do the da 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 again, which I don't think it needs to, because it's like, well, okay, like if it did it, if you took down both, then sure, or at least the optional one. But like, it should have just continued after that scene. Thankfully, no one got sent to the X zone, so I wasn't backtracking to the crystal another time. But after nearly 19 minutes into the video, we can finally actually start exploring the Raithwall tomb. I'm not joking. Like, that is how much of a test it is to even get access to it properly. We had a boss outside. We had 2 bosses inside, with one of them being optional and taking me 20 tries because I wanted to get it done then and there. We haven't had a single reward for our efforts yet, and now we're only now passing this door to get into the main meat of the dungeon.
Incredible. It wounds me to look on as they pillage so solemn a place.
Yet without help, you and I are as nothing. Is this not so? He thinks ever and always on his own profit. Assure him of it and he shall remain true to our cause.
I do not share your Majesty's trust.
We will continue this later. Now we should concern ourselves with finding the Dawn Shard. It sleeps in waiting, somewhere deep within.
How can you be certain?
I can hear its call.
And welcome, officially, to the Tomb of Raithwall. As mentioned before, this place is gargantuan. As soon as you approach, the first thing you will see are these 3 teleporters. The one in the middle is accessible, the other 2 are not. There's also an urn in the background that will give you a map to this area to let you explore more freely as what you're dealing with. The way this area works is that the path splits in 2. Both sides have their own unique rewards, so you want to explore both of them, but in the middle of both are switches you need to pull. When both switches are pulled, the ability to get to the next area will highlight itself. But this waystone, as said before, this one here will take you back to the entrance, so you have a shortcut past the bridges if you wish to get a move on. The reason why this is here is because of that first demon wall. If you decided not to fight it and move on, or felt like you couldn't defeat it, this waystone will allow you to bypass it freely, so you don't have to worry about trying to run away from it every single time you want to pass through here. Because there are going to be points where you might want to leave to restore your items. Whichever path you do first, just do the other one next. The only thing of mention is whatever path you do second, it may be tempting once you pull the second switch to move on then and there, but do not explore everything first, because there are rewards that are worth your time here that you, if you can help not having to come back to later for, will be worth it. When on each of the splits, there's another split beyond it, because there are 2 entrances to the left and right path. It doesn't particularly matter, as Vosta just walks straight through a trap, which one you do first, because you'll get them both anyway. But we just got Dispel, and Dispel is very, very helpful. The way Dispel works is that any positive status condition that the enemy has, Dispel will attempt to get rid of them. So if they have Protect, they have Shell or Haste or even Reflect, Dispel will attempt to get rid of it, making it of great importance to you to maintain. Oh yeah, this was what I was referring to last part, where I was like, I know there's a point where I pick up an item and I just can't find it anywhere. And you can see me actively try my hardest to look for it, but I just can't find it for the life of me. I'm like, what? Where is it? What? What did I pick up? I think what happened was that I picked up an item that I actually already have one of, so I just couldn't find it because I was only looking at the bottom of the list. Not that it matters. But as you can see on the map, the areas go around in a circle. There's a bit in the middle where there's like a solemn block where the switch will be, and then we'll carry on beyond it to go around, exit out the other side, so we get every single potential treasure that is in the area. You're also on occasion going to see me rub up against walls. You don't need to do this because it's not this dungeon that introduces it, but I was aware that it was going to be soon. But in some areas in the game, there are secret walls. Have you ever played Dark Souls? You know when you like whack around a wall and suddenly you can go through it after you've hit it? Exactly the same idea. There are parts where if you attack a wall, it will show reveal a hidden path. But touching this pedestal is the switch that I was referring to, which will partially lower the way out, but not completely. There's a switch on the other side. Once that's pulled, that one will completely lower. But the teleporter here will be activated as well, so you can return to the middle of your own volition. But don't. As much as it may be tempting to do so, explore the rest of the place out as you go. As we take on these peculiar enemies, the Ragos, there are treasures everywhere here. Many of them would be some of the randomly generated ones, so not necessarily worth it. But similar to that, when we just got a Dispel spell, there are going to be things here that are definitely worth your time. And the materials that the enemies drop here are also good for getting more unique things in the bazaar, so you might as well try and get as much of it as you can now, so you don't have to worry about it so much later if you're going for a true 100%. I won't be going for true 100% because maxing out the bazaar would be taking way too much time and grinding, and it's not even something you actually get a proper reward for as far as I'm aware. It's just something you can do. So I've mentioned before, I want to try and fill out my bestiary, and I also want to try and take down every single hunt, but beyond that I'm not too fussed. There's also one more condition, but it's spoilers, so I won't get into it yet. But these Ragos are probably the most like peculiar enemy design in the game. Like, I remember when I first saw them, My first thought is this going to be this area's version of the superpowered enemy you can't fight yet? And thankfully, no, that's not the case. But look at them. There's nothing like these guys in the game, or really in the series, outside of the magic urns. But even then, they don't have faces like this. It's usually a small creature inside your average pot. There's also a plentifully large amount of just zombies and basic mooks around, so you're gonna be fighting quite constantly as we exit from the other door to see what awaits us on the other side. Immediately checking your left, because there's always a treasure chest on the end, to get a handkerchief. Handkerchief is your cure for oil. I think you even see me look for it as well, just to be safe. Well, no, I have one last look for that other thing, because it was really bugging me that I couldn't find it. But yeah, we do have the handkerchief, it's there. I think what I picked up was the new Kai sand, but to be honest, I was mid-talking when I picked it up, so I've missed it twice now. I'll have to check later on or something. But we are done with this side now, so we can head over and repeat the process on the other side, as we get another file of the new Kai sand. I think the new Kai sand is for confusion, but I'm not certain because I haven't had to use it that much yet. And as you can see in the main stadium, up here on the top, the teleporter to the right has been activated because we activated the switch on the right side. And now we'll be repeating the same thing. And like I said before, you want to explore thoroughly both sides, so even when we activate the second switch, we'll still be circling around and clearing out the last of the area. I flip an imaginary coin in my head and decide to take the upper path again. And I think this one is the other way around, the spell's on the lower path, but we'll get it on our return visit round anyway. Yeah, because that's just echo herbs, which is for silence, so that's echo herbs are good to have for your mages. And the music does an effective job at just setting the tone for this place as well. I can say that about the whole game. There's a reason why I've shut, even on some cutscenes where there's no actual voice acting, I've stayed quiet in. It's because the setting of the scene and the music that accompanies it is so well done in this game, and it remains this way for pretty much the entire duration, that it does an amazing effect at getting you invested in the world. At least for me it did. But speaking of Final Fantasy and getting invested, the Final Fantasy VII demo, it literally got released 5 seconds before I went to record this. It got announced and released, and so it's downloading as we speak, which is oh, for God's sake. But it's kind of fitting that it came, that it had to be then, because I even woke up early this morning and I was like, why did I wake up early? I have no reason to. And then it got announced and I was like, oh, maybe that was why. Maybe it was a subconscious thing of knowing it was going to happen. Because I, like literally any Final Fantasy fan, or anyone who grew up in the 90s I'm super excited for Final Fantasy VII's remake. Even if it's only a part of the game, I'm still super, psyched up for it. I think it's going to be great fun, even if it isn't the full adventure. And I'm aware it's going to be capped at 30 frames, but to be honest, in the same way that it never bothered me when Kingdom Hearts was at 30 frames, the game isn't trying to be technical, so I'm not that fussed. It's trying to be fun. It's trying to just be fun and get on with it. If I want to get technical and have fun, then yeah, I'd want it to be 60 frames. But if it's not trying to be technical and it's just trying to be more like casual, then sure, go for 30 frames. I'm sure it'll be 60 when on the inevitable PC release. And I can imagine it will get a next-gen re-release, so it'll be 60 as well. But I think that's the only thing. I'll probably raise an eyebrow if the next-gen release, because it'll almost definitely get one, is also at 30 frames. But from what I've heard from various sources, it was a mission and a half to get the game to lock at 30 in the first place, so just leaving it turned off or trying to push it for 60 was unrealistic. Which I can respect. It's Square Enix's engine, the DirectX, I think it's on the XII. It might not be. I might be dead wrong. I haven't actually looked up what engine it's on. But the engine that Square Enix used for their major first-party projects, aka the engine they use for Final Fantasy and Final Fantasy alone, is very technically impressive, but it's very demanding on a lot of the hardware because it's more kind of built for PC, it feels like. It's why Capcom's RE engine, I give it so much more love, because it was very, very well compatible for consoles, and so it can run a smooth 60 even on base PS4 or on Xbone. And you might have just noticed those things just put oil on all of us, so any fire damage is going to hurt like hell. Which, if you're like relatively strong, it shouldn't be too much of a threat. Like, it's going to hurt more, but you'll still be fine. But for the sake of following along like what you should be doing, I do have everyone get it off themselves. I don't set it to any gambits because it's only for like this area, so it'd be a waste of time. But you're going to see, even though I've activated the switch and can move on, I continue circling round because there's more loot to be had. Because I know there's another, I think it's a spell, it might be a technique actually, but there is another reward of a such in here that I want to get before I leave. As 2 of us get immediately inflicted with Petrify, God. But both myself and Vossler just immediately got hit with Petrify. Well, Barsh and Vossler, I say myself because I just always play as him. There we go. And you can have the game in the option set to active or wait, which I mentioned like way back in part 1, but because of how much time I've spent pausing going through menus, I'll mention it now. Anytime you bring up the menu like this, if the system is set to wait, the world will pause. So you can carefully look through what you want to do and decide what you want to do, allowing you to take your time with your strategy. However, if you like to get a move on and keep the flow going, or you just want a little bit more of a challenge, feel free to move it to active, in which case the game will not pause when you're going through your menuing. Which both sides have their pros and cons. I said wait allows you more time for strategy, but active keeps the battle flow going a lot better, because sometimes you're in mid-fight and the whole thing, the world will come to a stop so you can address it. Also, this is me trying to be sneaky, and Ash makes me freak out. Like, I even zoomed the camera in because I'm like, Ash, are you seriously about to walk into that? And thankfully she didn't, but it really looked like she was gonna. Like, Princess Ash, no! Other way. Yep. Go on past me. Get this. Get Vanish, which is a great spell because it makes it so enemies can't see you. As I think that's that one. I might be mistaking it with another spell, but I'm pretty sure Vanish is the one that when you're afflicted with it, enemies can't see you. So you can have a much easier time. Like, if you're in a level that you're vastly underleveled for, but there's good loot, aka those caves, you can use Vanish now to squeeze through it to get some early loot. Just, if, like I said before, if you do decide to explore the caves now, if you get to a point where the area suddenly gets very misty with like this greenish yellow mist, leave it, because there is a boss fight in there and you won't stand a chance. The boss will just murder you. It will just massacre your ass. But like, either way, once you've pulled both switches, both paths will have an extra way opened up so you can go into the deep pit. This is the mist you'll be looking for in the cave that signifies that you're near to that boss.
Fog? Underground?
Not fog. Mist.
You can see the mist with your eyes?
Where it is thick enough, you may. The nether runs deep in this place.
So, is the mist dangerous?
Yes, but it is also an aid. A dense mist allows the working of powerful magics.
I'll keep that in mind. Can't count on Vaughn to keep track of these things. That's for sure.
Alright, Penelo. Seriously, has there been a point in the game where Penelo hasn't just randomly dogged on Vaughn? I say that, I enjoy the whole cast. Like, Vaughn is kind of forgettable, but outside of him, the whole cast is good. Which I know is a shame for some people that the protagonist of all people is the character that's kind of forgettable. But it really doesn't bother me because it's not his story. He might be the box art protagonist, but he's not the protagonist. The 3 characters that we've got in our team are probably the ones that mean most to the protagonist. We just got the blood sword though, so I'm going to interrupt that train of thought and come back to it. The blood sword, similar to when I was talking about the ribbon and similar to the shell shield, they're special, so they have their own slot. As you can see, like, the blood sword's just there. Like, it's not tied to anything, it's just there because it's an interesting, unique weapon. The way it works, as I noticed that there's 100 points, 130 point things in the way of me getting it. The way the blood sword works is that it always tries to cast sap on every single strike. Sap draining health. So every time you deal damage to an enemy, you'll get it back in health. So effectively, if an enemy is hit with sap, you're good as gold because you'll be getting a lot of health back that you can sustain yourself as long as you're relatively consistent with your attacking. I also take this opportunity to just iron out some of the license points for the cast, because we are approaching the main boss of the tomb now. And that's what the mist is signalling. There is a specific type of boss that I was alluding to a little earlier this part, of saying it's the third and final condition of what I want to try and go for before I wrap up this entire playthrough many parts from now. And there are these specific types of bosses in this area that we're about to be introduced to, called espers. My third condition for before I leave it, my first one being trying to clear out the bestiary, my second being trying to get every single hunt done, my third condition is hunt down every single esper. Because there are only a small handful of them that are mandatory in the game, and you always know when you're approaching one because the area will be filled with this deep mist. But there's like a dozen more that are entirely optional. And you want to take them down because the rewards for doing so are always worth it, depending on your build. If you've got someone who's really dedicated to magic and can make the most of it, the espers will be your best friend for reasons we'll get to after we take this guy down. Also worth mentioning, almost every single esper in the game is heavily elemental focused, so you need to adapt your strategy for so. They also get their own boss theme when you're fighting an esper, so you know it means business. And you're going to see me immediately try and tackle Belias, I think it's called, a more legitimate way by trying to inflict it with slow. I think it just misses every time. Like, I don't think it's actually immune to it. I think I just get unlucky. Yeah, it just misses a bunch of times. So it's not actually immune to it. It's probably just resistant. But the main strategy is pay attention to what element it uses. And this applies to every single esper. If it goes to use an element on you, you need to be on top of it. This thing also has Greater Barrier, which is going to be annoying, but you should have picked up Dispel in this dungeon, which can deal a heavy amount to deal with it. Vossler can also use Exposed to try and reduce its damage, because Greater Barrier is going to be boosting its defense, as you saw it just got Protect and Shell. And it's now preparing Fire Azure. Fire Azure is tier 4 fire, so it's going to hurt like hell. And because it's now, if you couldn't get the signal from the fire that turned on around it, its element is fire, that should address that you need to be using water to deal the most damage to it. But Fire Azure, like I said, is tier 4. We only have tier 1 magic. It goes the name of the spell, adding an A at the end, adding G at the end, and then adding J at the end. So it's like, for the instance of fire, 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 Fire G, Fire Azure. Blizzard, Blizzara, Blizzarga, Blizzarja. Thunder, Thundara, Thundarga, Thundarja. But on that note, Belias the Esper is defeated. And every time you defeat an Esper, something pretty cool happens. Something that is a staple of the series of summons. You get to summon the Espers. So enjoy that for what it is. You obtained the Esper, Belias the Gigas.
In vain glory they arose, shouting challenges at the gods, but prevail they did not. Their doom it was to walk the mist until time's end. A legend of the Nemo.
My family tells a story of the Dynast King and an Esper. The story goes that in his youth, the Dynast King defeated a mighty Gigas, for which the gods took heed of him. Thereafter it was ever bound to him in thraldom.
So, all this time it's been here guarding the Dynast King's treasure?
Not so. The Esper is the Dynast King's treasure.
That's your treasure?
In this Esper we now command rests a power whose worth is beyond any measure.
Is that so? Call me old-fashioned, but I was hoping for a treasure whose worth we could measure.
Where every time an Esper is defeated, it is added to the license board for everyone, for someone to buy. However, when one person buys it, it will then be taken away from everyone else. Only one person is allowed each summon. So what you can do, is what I'm probably gonna do, is put them all on one character. But the other reward for defeating your first Esper is one that is what kind of really opens wide your strategy for this. We now have the ability to get access to a second job. So you know, so far we've had Barsh be nothing but a knight, we've had Balfir be a time battle mage, and we've had Ash be a red battle mage. Well, now we can make them not just that, we can expand what they have, giving us complete access to the Zodiac board here. Every single slot can be filled. And after considerable thinking, I decided to make him a black mage. Because then he's got time magic and aggressive magic. I decided to go all in because the battle mage side of the time mage will cover enough of his physical needs that going all in with direct black magic will allow us to advance our aggressive strategies much further than before. And through his battle mage stuff, he can still equip decent equipment without just becoming a dedicated mage. And it's also the biggest reason why I said before of why I wanted to give him in particular the double license points. Because there's going to be two different magic based boards that he is going to be working on at once. For Barsh, keeping with his physical theming, I decided to make him a foe breaker. Which is the main reason being is that foe breaker has the most amount of physical damage boosts on the license board. In the bottom right corner, there's an entire chunk of like 12 physical attack boosts, and they're beautiful. There's also another battle lore onto the side here, but look, there's another battle lore there. It goes all along that bottom row and then all out that side. There's loads of them, but it also gives me a closer access to the shell shield, so I don't have to spend 100 license points just to get close to it, and also allows me to start getting access to axes, which are two-handed weapons, so I'd have to give up whatever shield I'm using to use it, but it can be worthy because two-handed weapons in any RPG ever deals far more damage. You're just giving up the extra defense because you can't carry a shield. But once you are done and you've tried to go for your license boards and things like that, this stone will return Yi back home, and if you go to activate it again, it will return Yi to here, because, you know, it can't just speak in normal English. But when you press up here, we'll get our reward for why we came here in the first place.
What's wrong? Your Majesty, we must go.
What? You will be avenged.
Maybe it's a sign that Ash is doing the right thing then. If she saw a spirit, or maybe it's just an illusion, but we're going to assume a spirit. of her late husband Rassler. But once you've got your Dawn Shard, return to the Waystone and interact with it. The demo literally just finished installing, which is great. So then in a couple minutes when I finish recording, I could just hop on it. I literally just saw the notification whilst I was mid-sentence. And it will literally take you all the way back to just here. But we can now interact with that hidden jewel. Now we've got the shard, allowing us access to the secret paths on the side. Following it will lead you to something called the Scathe Mote. The Scathe Mote is a one-of-use item, so you can only use it the once and then it goes. But it deals tier 4 random damage. And so at this point in the game, is worth the trouble. It's however later in the game, when you have access to stronger magic in general, it's going to run out of its welcome. Which is the only thing that kind of lessens the victory a little, because it's like it's only a temporarily useful item for all the effort you had to make to get it. As I said, you had to take down the optional first fight against the demon wall in that much smaller side of the bridge, as you can see on the map, and it was stronger. This area loops and it's not a part of the main map, so it's the reason why it's not a part of the main map is so then if you haven't done the wall, you'd be none the wiser. It's deliberate. But both sides take to the same place, so just pick whatever one you want to do and work your way down the stairs. Because there's no map here, I just turn off the map so you can actually enjoy seeing the whole screen for a while. So I can imagine it would annoy some of you watching. So it never bothers me because I actually like being able to just at a glance see where I'm going whilst getting a move on. I wish more games allows you to have that option. And the fact that they never brought anything even remotely like it back in Final Fantasy is even more baffling to me. Maybe in 16. Well, I say that I don't actually know if it's in the MMO, because I haven't played it in a very long time, but I don't think it is. I think you do have to still actually bring up the map manually. But then the map's so easy to access in that game from what I remember. But anyway, I'm going to wrap this up because that's it, and a lot of cutscenes are going to happen soon. Next time on Final Fantasy XII, we'll find out where we're going to go next now we finally have the shard. But until then, you guys take care now.